Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, good evening, wherever you're watching this live broadcast from. My name is Nishit Kotak. I'm here with the team from Hindu Academy, and thank you so much for joining us today. We meet every Saturday at 2 o'clock UK time, and the format of today's call is going to be very simple. We'll start off with a video, which will have the focus topic of the day. For today, we're going to be looking at the topic of humanity. What is humanity all about? And then we're going to go into a little bit of a discussion around that. And from there on, we will take your questions, which you can post live on air on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Hindu Academy. Or you can leave them in the comments area on YouTube, which is at youtube.com/Hindu Academy. So without any further ado, let's get started with the focus topic video of today. I hope you'll enjoy this, and I will be back shortly after the video is finished.
Look at humanity. Forget about religion, word religion. Whole of humanity, since we were born, all of us for thousands of years, we are in search of our identity. Really think that's what it's all about. We don't know who the heck are we. We first of all look in the mirror and say, that's me, surely. You look at our body and say, that's me. So we kind of get fixated on what we think we are. And this, in a way, you're trying to unfold, get your identity. So we use different pathways to discover our true identity. That's all. The world is suppose you're a secular person, you are trying to identify yourself with the hype that you've been discussing. I must be rich and I must make money. And that's the identity you create for yourself, and live up to the hype and feel smug when you achieve that. So we are kind of all the time struggling to sort ourselves out. What is our true nature? What is our true identity? Now this process is called unfolding spiritually. Now different individuals unfold spiritually using different methods. Is there anything wrong with it? No. It depends on your own background, your family background, your cultural background, that you unfold in a particular mode. So many people have been brought up or weaned. For example, Nishit Bhai have been weaned on, even me, was weaned on a Hindu tradition. So this idea of gods and goddesses and colorful narratives is the way we are weaned, brought towards our religion. So we find our identity through using that particular format. Every tradition, suppose you are a Christian or a Muslim, you will kind of in a way unfold give your identity based on your tradition, saying, oh, you are this and you are loved by God and you must find God. So that's the identity you create for yourself and try and fulfill the hype of that particular method. This is called pluralism. Different individuals unfolding spiritually in the mode that suits their own temperament, their background, their cultural, social background, allow for it. Even a secular person, says Richard Dawkins, he's not bothered with religion. In fact, he dislikes the word religion. He's in a way unfolding spiritually using the faculty that he loves most, biology, evolutionary biology, and seeing he can get answers to the deeper question regarding what is our identity, what's the identity of human beings or living things, using biology. So it's unfolding in a particular mode. So this is called pluralism, many different ways to unfold spiritually based on our own temperament, our own background, our own cultural, social. Remember, recognize it, don't vilify it. That is why it's called pluralism, many ways to unfold spiritually. There's a really deeper meaning to the word pluralism.
Free e-learning course in Hinduism. To register, please visit www.hindu-academy.com.
Talks on Hinduism, sponsored by People Care, encouraging caring for the elderly in their own homes. For more information, please visit peoplecare.com.
And so there we have it. We've got the latest topic for the day today, which is what is our true identity indeed. So I will hand over to Vijay Bhai and Sitaben to carry on the discussion on this, and I will come back very shortly with a few questions from the viewers.
Sita, you want to have a go? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a wonderful topic because it's such a universal idea, this idea of spirituality. And it's not just confined to religion, as we have said. It's any kind of activity which draws you towards your true nature, the thing that makes you sort of forget, that you're the mind and the body and you're sort of living this sort of materialistic life. something which is completely ethereal, something which is completely intangible, but all of us are sort of striving towards that. And, we sort of chase after material things and all of that, but you never quite get that same kick because it's a very sort of temporary satisfaction. Whereas with something like this, any kind of disciplined human endeavor, whether it be sport or music or art or even religion, praying, meditating, that sort of amazing feeling you get when you're successful in that particular endeavor is something you can't get from the material world. And it really strongly suggests that the basis for everything, the underpinning to everything, is spirit. And that's how we define our tradition, really, as dharma. That which underpins everything is essentially spirit. So it gives us a wonderful depth to our life. It enriches our lives. And without it, you're living a very sort of materialistic life, which doesn't really satisfy the deeper sort of needs within. Vijay bhai?
Yeah, all I can say is that the video we just saw is perhaps one of the greatest strengths of Hinduism, because the idea that it recognizes the fact that everybody is trying to thrive in some way or the other. And underneath all that, trying to achieve, whether it's secular mode or, in the educational mode, sports, music, dance, or even religious mode, the thing you're trying to achieve, you're also trying to find answers to who you are, your identity. And the fact that we accept all those possibilities, let's face it, that's how the world is. No matter how much you try and put somebody in a particular box, it won't work. Everybody's striving in their own way with the tools they have, the background they have to succeed. And that's what life is about, to try and work out, yes. But I think eventually, no matter how hard you fight for material things, as Sita just mentioned, at some point you get, is that all it? And your mind is always running because your spirit is striving to find identity, who you truly are, your true nature. And at some point you look, no, okay, that's not really me. There's something more to it. But that's the beauty about this, the life we have, humanity, is struggling to find that answer. And again, as I mentioned, that the fact that Hinduism allows for that, and accept that everybody's different aptitude, age, background, geographical, historical, and from that point to thrive and succeed. That's what humanity is about. That's what makes Hinduism universal. We don't put people in specific groups. And that's what life is all about, basically. Yeah. Over to you. Go on, Sita.
I just saw the next question is that sort of related to genetics? So, I guess in a way that our sort of physical frame is formed around this sort of spirit, which is sort of manifesting in material form. But all of us are essentially sort of spiritual beings, sort of in a material frame. And I guess regardless of your genetics, you strive towards a more spiritual way of living. And not everyone is at that particular point in their spiritual journey, because a lot of people feel like, they want to live life fully, and that involves sort of materialistic goals as well. They want to become powerful, they want to become wealthy and all of that. But hopefully, at some point you might realize that, there's a certain level of happiness that you can get. And, after that, things sort of start to sort of level off or start to deteriorate because it's not sustainable, that sort of level of happiness from material things. So then having to then focus on something else is essential to sort of maintain a sort of a more happier, more sustainable way of living. Vijay bhai?
A very interesting question. I think a lot of Hindus say that, even some scriptures said that the body we choose to reincarnate in is based on a particular aptitude. So perhaps the genetics may play a part, but the thing is, there are many other factors, obviously, the environment you live in, the kind of experiences you face, the circumstances which come against you. So all that play a part. But again, all that is part of living, right? It's how life unfolds for everybody. But as I mentioned, no matter what kind of circumstances you are in, what kind of background, genetics as well, all these play a part. But the fact still remains that we're all trying to find identity, right? We're trying to strive for answers. You may feel that sometimes you may want to go for money or material. At some point you say, no, there's something more to life than that. You see a lot of great philanthropists. They made so much money and they go, is that all there is? I said, no, I have to do something more for humanity. So I think genetics does play maybe a small part, but there's a vast variety of factors that play a part on how we strive and kind of move forward in life. So the next question we have is how to convince everyone to read the Bhagavad Gita. That's from Ganesh Shukla. Interesting question. Look, as Hindus, of course, we love the Bhagavad Gita. But I think the idea of trying to go out and convincing everybody maybe is not the right way. But of course, you can say, look, we have this amazing book. If you get a chance, read it, have a go and think for yourself. But one thing we must keep in mind that even if you do ask others to read the Bhagavad Gita, always make sure you tell them read with an open mind. And it's okay to also be a critic of some things you don't agree with. And that's the beauty about it. I mean, that's what Krishna actually says, yes? Think for yourself and accept that everybody is different. I mean, that's why in the Gita, we have 4 different pathways to moksha, not one. Because again, as Jaybai mentioned in the video, that we're all different. See, that's such an amazing thing in Hinduism you don't find anywhere else. If you're somebody who loves, thinking and using your brain, you go the Gyan Marg. If you love doing selfless service, the Karma Marg. You don't see it anywhere else, yeah? So in that sense, we're so lucky. Sorry to kind of blow our own horn, but that's the beauty we have in Hinduism. So Asita had gone here.
Yeah, no, I think you're completely right. I mean, I agree with the comment underneath that it shouldn't be done by force. So it's only if you have that natural inclination to read the Bhagavad Gita, then please, by all means, do. And you can gain a lot of spiritual wealth from it because you understand pluralism, you understand all the sort of key concepts within Hinduism, like reincarnation, renunciation, all of these wonderful things, which can give you a real grounding in your everyday life, because it's very easy to lose sight of our spiritual focus while we're sort of rushing around and living this materialistic life. So it just gives you a real grounding, and you can only really do it once you've got that inner spiritual calling that says, I want to search for something more to life than what is currently around me, because it's not satisfying me. So when you find that sort of desire, that drive, then do go to sources like the Bhagavad Gita and to more recent sources like the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda, because they can really sort of empower you.
All right, so I've got something to explore. We've got a focus topic today, which is how to look at your true identity. Now, if it's okay with you both, I will just try and explore this a little bit further. I mean, we all arrived on this earth with a purpose, and the very purpose lies deep within ourselves. There is a chance that you've already discovered your purpose and you're set on your desired path. But there is also a chance that you are still in an epic contest with your inner self. Your life is meaningful. There's purpose you want to uncover for yourself, but there's an intense yearning in everyone to reveal the very purpose of their lives. So let's explore this topic a little bit further. If I can ask you each one question, and then we'll whittle through a set of questions that can help people understand what their true identity is. So if I can get started, maybe I will start with Vijay Bhai, and I'll ask you the question. If you could change one thing in the world, what would it be?
Okay, the one thing that I would try and change is to get people away from material things as much as possible. I tell you why, because there's so much desire for objects, goods, money, yet the fact remains that our essential nature is not material. Yet we are so stuck on materials that we always lose focus. I think the main thing is that if we can live in a world where everybody there's enough for everybody in the world, but there's not enough for greed. If you have greed, there's not enough, right? So it depends. If some people are greedy, then there's not enough for everybody. So many things get people to understand that live for higher ideals. This is what Swami Vivekananda said, live for higher ideals, not for material living. And that's the biggest challenge that the world faces today. Regarding pollution, plastic, everything comes to one thing, is materialistic living and not trying to transcend that. Yeah, that's my idea. So
Brilliant. So we are who we are, and what shapes us depends upon many external factors, like potential influences of the outer world. So just these questions which I'm going to ask, I want the viewers to ask themselves. But the idea about this is appreciate yourself, love yourself, acknowledge that you'd like change and find your true identity. Sita Ben, I'll ask you one question, which is what gives you energy?
Energy is sort of taking time out of your life, either through meditation or through contemplation, just having that pause in your everyday life. Otherwise, life is very exhausting. You're just rushing from one place to the other and trying to sort of, fill this gap and then fill this gap, and you're just constantly plastering and trying to make sure things are sort of running smoothly, and it's very draining. So having that time sort of in solitude every once in a while is the thing that can really charge you up spiritually and give you that sort of energy and that drive to carry on and also not lose focus. So that's actually the reason why rituals within Hinduism are very sort of important, because, it's very easy to do it mechanically, but once you do it meaningfully, doing a worship ceremony, sitting down and meditating or saying the name of God just for a minute or two every day, it gives you that perspective as well as the energy to sort of carry on.
Absolutely. So you should use your energy level as your guide, and those activities that suit your purpose or your personality will raise your energy level. And on contrary, activities that do not interest you can drain your energy. So think about what excites you, what you're passionate about. You can easily figure out what excites you by simply being mindful of what excites you. And doing something passionately will describe who you are as a person and what is your true self. Brilliant. So Vijay, are you an early riser or a night owl?
I'm actually a very early riser. I wake up at 5:30 daily. And then after getting ready, I kind of walk at least for half an hour, 40 minutes. And I start work early as well. And I try to sleep early. It doesn't happen sometimes. So that's, of course, like everybody else, fighting to get more sleep. I try to get about 6-7 hours, but usually end up with 6 or 5. But yeah, I mean, I do a lot of work in the evening, but always by 5:30, I'm up on a daily basis. That's
fabulous. This was actually a trick question. So it doesn't really matter whether you're a night owl or an early riser, but the point is how you're utilizing the time in which you are awake. So if you have that point in your life when you should be settled by now, but somehow you're not, then you need to think about making some positive changes to your routine so you can put the best self forward in life. Sitaben, so what are the kind of ideas that come to you in the shower? And I'll explain why.
Usually it's things which are things that I have to do during the day, and it's just all the sort of rushing around, because usually I have a shower in the morning, all the stuff that you have to do, but then also sort of trying to think about the people around me, like my daughter and my mom and everyone around me, just to sort of make sure that you kind of do what you can to support them. And usually it's just a rush job. But I don't know if there's any right or wrong answer to that.
No, you're right. Many of us can relate to this question. And the reason I ask is just because people can be mindful, because taking a shower is perhaps the most relaxing part of your day. And many inspirational ideas can come to our minds when we're relaxed. And it could be any sorts of ideas, motivational, funny, naughty, helpful. But these help to mold your personality and you act accordingly. So if you want to achieve something in life, the next time you take a shower, be aware of what kind of inspirational ideas come to you. Vijay bhai, so when you are stressed, do you act rationally or impulsively?
Okay, when I'm stressed, I try to do nothing first. Yes, so I don't try to act at all, and then just calm down. It happens to you, sometimes in your mind you get really angry, and you want to say something, but you try and really control yourself. So I try not to say it. That's okay. Let me do nothing for a while, like half an hour. Do nothing at all. Just control and think through. And then I realized actually I'm getting stressed, but is it really worth getting stressed about? And eventually I just tell myself, look, life just goes on. Don't bother. Yes. But yes, stress can be a very big thing. It's happened to me. I'll tell you why. I'll give personal experience. I think 2-3 years ago, I was very, very stressed regarding work issues, really complex stuff I was solving. And I did get some sort of little bit psoriasis, yes. And I got, and the doctor told me it's most likely stress. And this actually, no, then I realized actually I failed in that goal of trying to control stress. But that's how life is. Then you learn from that. So look, by the way, no matter how difficult something is, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Don't stress about it. Yeah, just move on and strive to succeed.
Yeah. So these are all questions I'm asking. They may sound simple, but once you answer them honestly to yourself, you will be a long way towards discovering your true identity and your true self. So this was pretty much a straightforward question. You can react to any situation either of the ways, rationally or impulsively. But it tells me how you shape your personality through your life. And if you act in a rational manner, it tells me you have a sense of responsibility towards yourself and people around you. And on the other hand, if you react impulsively, then you do not think before acting. And then, of course, the outcomes are accordingly for the rest of the parts in your life as well. Sitaben, what achievement are you proudest of?
I feel like it's not really anything, nothing is really my achievement. I just feel grateful for all the people around me throughout my life who've helped me on that particular journey that I'm on at the moment, especially my dad. Without my dad, I wouldn't have anything really. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. So yeah, I think just being grateful for everything around me and just grateful that you're on a particular journey. And it's nothing to do with you, it's just the journey that you're on and the people around you who've helped you.
Absolutely. So us failures are part of our life. So are our achievements. The trouble is many people hold on to the failures far longer than they should. And they don't celebrate their successes or their wins equally. So whatever your best achievement may be, whether it's a promotion, you did really well at school, etc., these achievements may have changed you as a person. So think about that change, and then that will describe one part of your true self as well. Vijay, if I could ask you the question the opposite way, which is, what failure haunts you to this day?
I've got to think really hard on that one, but all I can do is, I mean, regarding these two things, obviously, one is regarding work, kind of work I do. There are times when I do software programming, and there are times I've lost companies a lot of money. I won't give figures, but and that kind of haunts me because but then I realized actually, I'm human. Those things do happen, right? Yeah. But on a personal level, I would say that always striving to be, I'm not sure it's a failure, but strive to succeed in any way I can in terms of spirituality. But regarding any major failure, can't think of it at the moment. But if it does come, I'll let you know. Yes.
Well, look, everybody in this world has failed at something or the other in their life, And these failures sometimes define what kind of a person we are. There's two kinds of people. One who fails and then lives their life in failure. And the second one fails and works hard to get out of their failure. Swami Vivekananda is one such person who will tell you never, look at failure as final. And so now you've got to choose what kind of person you are. And that, again, impacts your personality and your true self. Sitaben, if you could turn back time and do something differently, what would it be? Or would you do it?
Yes, I mean, one part of my life, which I feel like I didn't appreciate so much at that time, was my childhood. I had such a wonderful childhood, and as an adult, you've got so many sort of concerns and worries about so many things and responsibilities. And as a child, you don't have any of those, and you're so keen to sort of grow up and become an adult and all of that. You feel like, oh, I'm not really living at the moment, but you are living such a wonderful life as a child because you're sort of discovering the beauty around you. You've got a loving family, and you kind of appreciate it. So I wish I'd sort of appreciated that a bit more, the childhood.
Yeah, I bet many of us wish we had this power to go back. And although we all make mistakes, we are, after all, humans, and we do tend to commit mistakes. But our mistakes also shape the way that we are. And many of us would not care at all after committing mistakes. And many of us have baggage full of regrets. But in both cases, it dictates what kind of person you are. If you regret your mistakes, you have the capacity to change yourself in a better way. We all know we cannot go back to where we committed the mistake, but we have the power to know ourselves better and change for the betterment of our own self. Vijay Bhai, if money was no object, what would you do in life?
Look, one thing I'll just say is, which is something I've learned from Jay Bhai, is I love to help others, just serve others. A huge amount of time is spent in setting tests, preparing exams and marks. I love that far more. I mean, if a lot of money, I don't think I need a lot of money personally. I'll just give it away, I guess. I don't know. I'm more interested in cars. I don't like big cars. I don't like big houses. So I don't know what to do with money if I have so much money. I think there's only so much you can do with money. If you get so much money, I've never had this. So it's kind of a hypothetical question, I guess. But I try and spend time, any free time I have, to help others and work with others. In essence, I love to be in a social group. I have a lot of friends I work with. And that's what kind of drives me. By far, what is far more important to me is the friends and family groups that I have. that is kind of far more valuable to me than perhaps say, I don't know, a big car. But that's just me. I guess everybody's different. Yes.
No, you're right. I mean, it cannot be denied that most of us run after money because of the basic necessities that are bought with it, right? But this question could be a life turner for many people. If you ask yourself, what would it be like if earning money was not a priority? And then how would you respond to your life? This will allow you to think that, how would you spend your time? Who would you spend it with? What will you be doing with it? There are countless answers to this question, but do try asking yourselves, and this will sort of help reveal who you really are and what is your true self. Sita Ben, what's the worst thing that's ever happened to you?
That's a bit of an obvious one. Well, my dad passing away. That was the worst thing. But in a way, you just have to sort of treat it as an opportunity to grow. All the things you have to sort of take on all of a sudden, you just have to sort of treat it as a sort of a new path and sort of hope that you have the strength to carry on, really.
Well, the reason I ask is because the happy moments in life may not influence our personality as much as the painful ones can do. So your worst moments can shape you accordingly, and they have a capacity to change your perspective about life and the world. And thinking about the worst thing that has happened to us and then figure backwards, has it consumed your life with negativity or has it shed something positive for you? And then you need to work on something and prevent it from, doing something to you that you will be in a worse off position. You, in the other hand, for example, have taken things on in a very positive manner. And so kudos to you, things are going well. And I'm going to share a few more details later on about how well, Hindu Academy is progressing. And let's move on. So Vijay Bhai, we got only a few more questions left.
Sure.
Vijay Bhai, what's the most favorite thing about yourself?
A favorite thing, I would say that, again, I would say in my case, the luckiest favorite thing I have is that I have so much access, primarily because to my father, again, because this was a Gurukul, I have access to tremendous amount of Indian culture and knowledge, all over Indian knowledge, because my father was a very avid reader of so many Indian kind of books, Indian poetry, all this ancient Gujarati poetry. And I've had so much access to that. And I must say that at that time, I wasn't that appreciated because he would play all these amazing, we call them Gadvis in Gujarat, Gujarati Gadvis, who say different kinds of life stories, yes, on what life should be about. And it just so happens that I used to learn a little bit, but not that much any interest. But now I really love that. So that kind of access I had to this tremendous knowledge about Indian culture and civilization, that has been such a big gem for me. And now I explore it even more. And the more I explore, as you know, the more you realize there's so much you know. So yeah, so that, I mean, even now I would say that the greatest, Gujarati poets like this Kalapi, Kavi Kag, is all very, very famous Gujarati poet, Pranlal, Nanalal, all these kind of great poets. And I love that because it actually gives me a good foundation of, where we come from. That's a very nice feeling for that, yeah.
So this was a tricky one because it can get the most out about your personality. If you had paused and you had to think about what's your favorite thing, then that would have told me you haven't thought about it, and you may not have a positive approach, but you were very fast and on the ball. You knew exactly what's your favorite thing. So well done on that. Sita Ben, what's your life's philosophy?
Try and multiply yourself, really. That's essentially spiritual living. So sort of seeing yourself in others, try and not focus on this is me and this is my little life and this is what I'm doing. Focus your whole attention on others. And that's the way you can live life most fully, essentially. So, just seeing yourself in others. You don't need to sort of follow any particular rituals or pray to any particular god, just sort of seeing what you can do for those around you. You can live a really enriching life.
Absolutely. I mean, to know your basic outlook in life, you just need to ask yourself this question. Do you see the world with positive attitude, or on the contrary, the negative one? Do you believe in live and let live? Do you believe in helping people, or you just don't care? So the list can continue on, but you really need to figure out what is your life's motto and what rules do you live by? And by asking yourself this question, you can get a clear image of what your true self really is. And then the last question for today is obviously for Vijay Bhai and to Sitaben, both of you. Any of you can answer, or both of you can answer. What is your identity?
Okay, I still don't know fully yet because I'm on that journey to find out. But I would say that I've always realized that when I do certain activities, I feel more charged, spiritual charge. If I go for a walk, I mean, like this lockdown has been so beneficial in one sense, because now I can pretty much name about a dozen trees in the park. I can name a different kind of acorn trees, right? I can name all the different kind of birds which fly. And I realized actually that when I identify myself with nature, then I feel more spiritually charged. But again, I can't say that I fully know that answer to that question, but I strive to do that. But I do know one thing, that one way to try and answer, one of the things you have to do is remove the negativity or the stuff that holds you down. Basically, it's, material stuff. And remember, as we say in Hinduism, both pleasure and pain are chains. One is a chain of gold, one is chain of iron, but they're both chains. To transcend those chains is our goal. So in a way, when you go out and forget about everything you own and go out and just look at yourself with nature around and nothing else, then I think you feel you're getting closer to your identity. But in truth, I'm not there yet. So, Sita Ben.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, we all sort of know it as sort of learning Hinduism, that essentially your identity is the Atman, the true self. And all of us are trying to sort of see through all the sort of dust and things that are sort of in front of the mirror, which is blocking the reflection of our true self. And we just have to try and live our life in a way which sort of, gets rid of all that dust and dirt, so we can really see who we actually are, not who we think we are, because it's very easy to sort of get caught up in materialistic living and sort of forget your true identity. And we try and sort of grab at various things in our everyday life, saying, I'm going to go here, I'm going to do this, and that's my identity. But only you can know your true identity. The sort of most sustainable way of looking at it is trying to find your true self and not who you think you are.
Well, fabulous. Wherever you go, you take your identity with you. It's your baggage. And identity is not our gender, but rather it's how we see ourselves or how we view others and the world. It's an amalgamation of your experiences to date, your social relationships, exposure to various emotions, personality, and other characteristics. And if you don't know what your identity is, you'll probably feel lost in this world. So question yourself occasionally, what is your true self? Because the potential influences that shape your identity, they change, and this requires you to question yourself at least once or twice every day. And like Swami Vivekananda says, talk to yourself at least once in a day. Otherwise, you may miss meeting with an excellent person in this world. So I think that covers our questions for this topic today. And what I'd like to do is get back to our usual Q&A session. And I'll ask the first question of the day on outside this topic is, bear with me. So somebody is asking, in Hinduism, what is your goal in life and what is your purpose as a spiritual being?
Yeah, so the goal in life we should all have is to find, as I say, as what this topic is about, is to find out who you truly are. And the only way we can find who you truly are, as Sita mentioned, remove all the fluff, dust, that kind of covers, it's kind of a veil which covers the true nature. And that's the aim, to remove all this fluff to find ultimately who we are. And that's really should be the kind of goal in life. Yeah, Sita.
Yeah, I think you've covered it basically. So we have to sort of make sure we don't lose our spiritual focus, because we are essentially spiritual beings. And it's very easy to think that we're just material beings and we're just sort of existing in our daily life, eating and drinking and going on holiday. But there is so much more to us than that. And we have to make sure we don't lose sight of that.
So somebody's asking, is the Christian Lord's Prayer inspired by Hindu scriptures?
Sorry, the Christian, sorry?
The Christian Lord's Prayer, is it inspired by Hinduism?
Yeah, okay, so I think Nishit, by that particular question, it could be, we can't really say for sure, but I think one thing we tend to we have to realize that even in the ancient times, there was a lot of exchange of ideas across civilizations, a lot of movement. It may not look like it, but it was actually there. And yes, it's quite likely that these things were picked up. Also, you can remember one thing, that India has always been a very ancient civilization, just primarily because of its geography and its climate. It's always been lucky to have this.
I'm so sorry, I don't know what happened. I think we're back live. It just got booted off from my Zoom. I'm not sure what happened.
That's fine.
So yeah, we are live now still, but okay. I'll check YouTube and everything in a bit. If I just give you a question to answer, were you on a question before it disconnected?
Yeah, the question was, I think, is the Lord's Prayer in Christianity influenced by Hinduism?
Yes.
So Sita Ben, I think, was going to give some views on that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Sure. So yes, as Vijay said, it's very difficult to know exactly what influenced what, but Indian philosophy has had a great impact on sort of, other world traditions as well. And one of the sort of unique things is that, we did have a great deal of spiritual insight, which we shared with the rest of the world. It feels like every nation has, a sort of particular specialism in a way, and the sort of Indian subcontinent had a great deal of, spiritual gems which they could share with the rest of the world. And it feels like, that's our speciality in a way. And we have to make sure that, throughout the history, make sure that that doesn't get lost.
Wonderful. We have a question here from Kira on YouTube. The question is, what causes Atman to get started with the circle of life and death?
Yeah. Okay. Very powerful question. Very important question. Because the thing is, first of all, of course, the fact remains in Hinduism, the Atman is, it's never born, it never dies. That we know of. Because the fact remains that the Atman actually transcends the idea of space, time, and causation, which is something that is a very wonderful lecture given by Swami Vivekananda on that it transcends Desh, Kal, and Maya. So the question, of course, comes, why is this Atman stuck in the realm of space, time, and causation which is created? Now, all I can say is that the many different acharyas have given different views. If you look at, say, Shankaracharya would say that actually he would just say, what cycle, that is all illusory. We just think we are in that, but actually we are not, there's no cycle. We just go stuck for some reason. We've been covered by Maya and we're trying to find out. How that Maya came spontaneously, it doesn't explain. Even the Vedic just say it happens spontaneously. If you look at some other traditions of Hinduism, they say actually, this is why Atman actually comes in cycle of life, and is to give us a chance to again sing the glory of the Lord. So very, very different answers, but there's no clear answer on that. But yeah, it's one of the very most important questions. What we can't say, we have to be careful, is we can't say that God created the Atman, because the idea of creation does not work in Hinduism. It implies that we are stuck in realm of time and causation, which is not true. So yes, there are many reasons, but I think most people say it's just spontaneous, it just happens, and we are there, and we have to kind of get back to find out who we are. Sita?
Yeah, it's one of those questions. Even the scriptures of authority, they also say we don't know why this is like this. Why do we have to sort of become a sort of become living in a body? Why do we then have to sort of make this whole journey of discovery? And there's all sorts of theories around that you have to sort of have an epistemic distance between God so you can make your journey towards God. But if we are all essentially perfect anyway, we are all a manifestation of spirit, why do we even forget who we truly are in the first place? And there's no real satisfactory answer. We just know that we are in this particular state, and we're having to sort of fight our way through materialistic life to find our true essential spiritual nature. And I guess, when you sort of hit that jackpot of a spiritual experience, all of these questions seem to sort of drop away, and you just sort of identify yourself as the magnanimous spirit that you actually are.
Wonderful. So we've had a great session so far. It's running almost to 20 minutes to 3. So I'll get cracking on with the rest of the questions. We've got a bunch to go through. One is, from the many Hindu temples in India, we see things that are related to ancient advanced technology. Sometimes it almost appears alien. Are you able to shed any light on advanced technology in ancient times? Is it a reality or is it just something that's lost?
Well, I can take that. I mean, I think that's true actually. In the ancient world, there's something that's really amazing. It almost looks like appears to be done human. But I think sometimes we give little credit to our own kind of ancestors. The fact remains they were in many cases are very clever. So I think we should accept that they had I mean, some of the war technology you see, like the pyramids of Giza and other amazing things, the amount of irrigation, like Indus Valley civilization, they got amazing city plans where you have a sewage system. So I think we should give more credit to our own ancestors than just discount it because they had the same brain as we did. Okay, maybe today we have computers, whatever. Does not mean they could not think in kind of amazing ways. And they could, I mean, like the hanging gardens of Babylon, all kinds of things that we have created. And I think it's only human. There's no angle to aliens. But yes, sometimes it's difficult for us to figure out how they did that. How did they carry 30, 40 ton stones, right, to build the pyramids of Giza? But they did it because they actually thought about this and made it happen. They were engineers and engineers, scientists, musicians, or whatever in their own right way. Yeah, so it appears alien, but I think it's still human. That's my personal view. Sita.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about aliens, but I do know that, ancient man is very innovative, and we are sort of standing on the shoulders of giants. We are so advanced because of all the hard work, all the thinking, all the sort of processes that ancient man has gone through. Even if you think of the most simplest things like, a wheel. Like, it's such a simple concept, but look how many things are based on the wheel. Without the wheel, we can't live our normal life. Or, the discovery of fire. It's just like an amazing
or zero.
Yes.
Or zero,
Concept of zero.
exactly. All of these things which we would not be able to live the comfortable life that we are living now. So we are definitely standing on the shoulders of giants.
Well, when I think of it, when we brought about the concept of zero, and now, the rest of the world depends on those zeros and ones for their computer work. Interesting. So the next question is from Neeraj Singh, who's watching us over on YouTube. He's got a question: how to cope with grief if somebody in the family has committed suicide? Is there any words of advice you can offer to him?
Sita mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, I've sort of gone through something similar, but not suicide. But I can imagine that that's even worse, actually, because that person must be going through tremendous pain to be sort of wanting to make that kind of decision to take their own life. But what we say is that Hindu philosophy does offer a great deal of comfort, when people pass away, that person hasn't just disappeared. They are still there. Their soul is eternal and they will sort of continue on their spiritual journey. And you just have to take comfort from that. And that's why there are various verses from the Bhagavad Gita which are read at funerals. It gives us comfort that person hasn't disappeared. They are still there. And what we can do is just sort of hope that they continue on their spiritual journey and sort of escape from all the troubles that they were going through. Vijay Bhai?
Yeah, I think this is tremendously difficult. I can understand Neeraj saying, because you ask yourself every day, what could I have done to change that person from stopping to commit suicide? Where have you gone wrong as a collective family or collective a group of friends? It's tremendously difficult. I think sometimes you could understand that also suicide can happen for other kind of medical reasons, or they got emotional issues. It's most likely some kind of medical condition. But I think one thing again is because the pressure we have in this world that we live in to conform to status. I think sometimes we need to try and let go. I think the other problem is also sometimes people feel when they're in such a situation, they feel that, how will I show myself because I'm in financial dire straits, or I'm getting divorced and my children are not going to see me anymore. What's going to happen to me? What will people think? But I can assure you that by and large, you'd be surprised that no matter what problems you have, if you have friends, good friends, they will support you no matter what. Don't ever feel that you have to conform to something. But most likely, you'll be surprised that your friends will conform to your ideas. Look, I'm in a situation. It's, hey, it's okay, But I think these ideas is main thing. I think is talk to talk to your friends, to try and share. Don't feel that, oh, what will they think? And then it will not work. So it's a very, very hard topic. I can imagine. I mean, I know one or two people who have done this, and the amount of pain it can cause is tremendous. But as I said, don't feel that you have to conform. Look, one thing I always remember in my life is that when I was very young, my father told me that even if you get a chance to feed one grain to an ant, life is worth living. Forget all the big things to achieve. Even if you do the tiniest amount of good, which we can all do, even giving, say, a glass of milk to a cat, if you have done that little thing, don't even think about suicide. You already made life worth living. So even the smallest thing can make life worthy. So you don't have to think that I'm worthless, nobody needs me. No, the world needs you. The nature needs you. There's so many that need you. So don't ever feel that no matter what straits are, don't take that step. But if it happened, then I think it's a challenge for us. But I think you just have to transcend it and then just move on from there, I guess. It's difficult to answer this question, actually. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just lighten up the mood a little bit. We are just going to point out some of the resources that we've been talking about every week. The first one of which is the Basics of Hinduism course. A couple of people have been asking over on YouTube how they can get enrolled onto it. So I will say you can go to our website, which is hindu-academy.com. Over here, we've got several things. You can enroll in the free e-learning course here. You can download the Hinduism books over here. You can submit your questions by video so that we can feature it here if you need to. And there are lots of resources on this website that you can access. The course itself, the Basics of Hinduism, this is the way it looks. This is the layout. And at the end of which, you've got a quiz with 110 questions that you can take. And I can tell you, by the time you answer these and you get everything right, you've got a sound, good knowledge of the basics of Hinduism. Now, the next thing I want to share with you, you all know that my goal here is to get to 10,000 people who subscribe. We are just around 7,000 at the moment. But I'll share with you my next goal, which is to get to the 100,000 subscriber mark. So as you can see from this chart, I started with this channel somewhere around May when we had 10,000 people in 2017. So I am really, really pleased with the way things have moved upwards, and I would really like your help to share, subscribe, let other people know about this channel, because I think the information we share is quite relevant, very, very topical in today's time, and it's easily digestible, and it's very valuable. So feel free to share, help us reach our goal of 100,000 subscribers very, very soon. Okay, going back to the questions. Aileen is asking a question that Hinduism is taught as polytheistic. Is it?
Sitaben?
Yes, we've gone through this question before. So it seems to be polytheistic because we think, oh, there are so many gods and all of that, but actually there is only one ultimate God, and there only can ever be one ultimate. Otherwise, it's just not ultimate enough. The definition of ultimate is that that's the highest highest common factor in a way. And the wonderful thing about Hinduism is that it's actually pluralistic. Pluralism is ingrained within Hinduism because we all have very different starting points in our spiritual journey, and all of us have, different requirements, different needs, different temperaments, and depending on that, you can choose a particular path which suits your requirements. So you can choose God with form, and there are so many gods with form. There are 330 million different forms of God in Hinduism. You can also think of making spiritual progress through good work, through karma yoga, through meditation, through sport, through art, through music. So that's the beauty of Hinduism, is that it's got pluralism ingrained within its philosophy. And it's something that's very relevant for the rest of the world, because we sort of encourage that other religions are also equally valid pathways of making. Vijay Bhai?
No, I think Sita, you have got it pretty brilliant. Yeah, I'm not sure I can add more than that, but yeah. That's the gist of it.
Wonderful. We've got about 8 minutes to go. I'm thinking maybe we can extend a few minutes today and try and cover some interesting questions that I've managed to get from the viewers. And viewers, thank you so very much for posting them online and sharing, your thoughts and comments with us on both Facebook and YouTube. We've got some really, really wonderfully warm feedback from the viewers, and we're very, very grateful for your feedback. So Yash Saxena is saying, I see Mother Goddess in my dreams many times. Is this something to worry about?
Why? Why should you worry about that? And we have all kinds of dreams. I think your dreams are quite nicer than most dreams that people get. So I think you should be pleased. Yes. I mean, look, the fact is that quite often we see nature, everything as a divine kind of feminine or as a kind of a mother goddess. Yeah. So you've seen the goddess in all its glory, then good for you. I think you're much closer to Ramakrishna than perhaps I am. So please go ahead. Yeah. Don't worry about that. Yeah.
DJ Incredible is asking, who created Hinduism and what does being a Hindu mean?
Sita, you never go.
Yeah, I mean, so Hinduism isn't just sort of based on one particular founder of Hinduism. And my dad often sort of went around to so many schools to sort of explain that there wasn't a Mr. Hindu who started Hinduism in the way that there are with other religions, like Buddhism started with Buddha and Christianity started with Christ. It's actually based on the spiritual experiences of thousands of people who are called rishis, and it comes from the Sanskrit root drish, which means to see. So they're the ones who have actually seen God or experienced something immense. And whatever sort of words they say to express that experience are sort of written down. We're so lucky that they were written down and passed on through the generations so that people in the following generations could understand that there is so much more depth to our life than what we are able to see in the present moment. And that's how Hinduism started. It shouldn't even really be called Hinduism. It should be called Sanatana Dharma. That's something that's eternal and universal. These spiritual experiences are, accessible to anyone throughout time or space, wherever you are, which century you're living in, that you are able to sort of touch base with that spiritual existence, essentially. So that's the beauty of Hinduism. It's based on the experiences of thousands of people, and it's not just restricted to ancient times. We have modern rishis as well, and it's a journey that continues to grow, and the way that spirituality is experienced through the ages continues to change. So in previous generations, this idea of God with form was, very, very relevant and very, very appealing for a lot of people. But now times are changing and people want to focus on spirituality, which isn't based on a personality. They prefer principle-based spirituality. So Hinduism is constantly evolving and based on the experience of thousands of people, amazing people. Vijay Bhai?
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting question because, one thing I always look at when I look at Hinduism, and if you look at the Vedic scriptures, for example, you'd be surprised that in the Vedic scriptures, some of the earliest beliefs of man, like shamanism, the idea of going in a trance, that is also in the Vedic, you see in the Vedic scriptures. All that from the earliest beliefs of humanity to the greatest ideas of the Atman and Brahman, everything is documented in the Vedic scriptures. And I must say, we are immensely lucky to have that because I'll give you an example. I'm currently reading a book on Christianity called The Darkening Age. And the amount of destruction that Christianity did of the classical paganism, heathen beliefs, to try and wipe them and destroy them because no, this is all false. And you're going to start off from a new chapter. Hinduism is not like that. We are, as Sita mentioned, we are kind of a religion of antiquity. And the contribution of thousands of great rishis, have actually expanded our knowledge of the idea of the spirit. So as I mentioned, the very earliest beliefs of trance, dream states, all this kind of stuff, from all the way to what we have today, all that is seen as part of Hinduism. So I think you can't put a date on who created Hinduism in that sense. So that's the gem we have, and I think we should appreciate that. Because quite often we have seen in the history of the world, when new religion comes, they determine to wipe off the old one, and so much has been lost, unfortunately, which is a pity, really. But in Hinduism, we are lucky that it hasn't happened, and thank God for that. Yeah.
Fabulous. The next question is from Purna Chandra Mondal. It's quite an interesting question, this one. So she's asking what happens after moksha. So what is the job of the Atma after moksha? Because there is no birth again after that. So she's trying to figure out what happens then.
Oh, okay. Okay, I can try and start on that one. Okay, the thing is this, first of all, we are so conditioned to living in a world where time is flowing and where we do things and activities. Yet the idea of moksha is a state where all this disappears. So you can't even think what am I going to do next? When you say, what am I doing? You're thinking in the human body terms, right? That question doesn't arise. So of course, you're going to wonder, what is this? I mean, all I can say is that I haven't had moksha, so I can't say, but if you look at Ramakrishna Paramahansa's story, Vivekananda is a very good example. When Swami Vivekananda went to meet Ramakrishna and he goes, have you seen God? And the answer he goes, of course I have seen him. I see him more clear than you. And after so many meetings, he said, look, I want to see this. And all Ramakrishna did was just touch his toe. He touched with his toe, just touched Vivekananda, and everything disappeared. He actually felt that actually time has stopped, but the thrill he got was kind of 1,000,000 times more than you get from any kind of pleasure. And he get that glimpse he got was, oh, there's something far more amazing. The Mundak, there's actually Upanishad scripture, the Mandukya Upanishad. It states that the deep sleep state that we have, when you're in very deep sleep and you fall asleep, and then when you wake up, you realize, oh, what happened to time? What happened to space? It's just as if it stopped. The only thing about deep sleep, you're not aware of that state. The day you become aware of that state, where there is no space or time, whatever, yet you feel this thrill start, that is the state of moksha. So that is something so far more amazing. I don't think you'll take birth. But I think the thing when you say, what do I do? That kind of doesn't come into, the question doesn't arise because there is no time to say what, right? It doesn't exist in that state. Otherwise, you'd be, you see, don't forget that the time and space only exists while the universe is around. Once the universe dies, those concepts don't exist. So either the Atman transcends that, and if it does, then of course it's not linked to that, or it's tied. That's why Hindus don't believe that Atman can be born, like in the Abrahamic faith. When you create something like the Atman, which is like Christ creates out of his love, that means you're bound by this space, time, and causation. Then how can you be free? That's why the Indic faiths have never accepted the idea that Atman can be created. It has to be timeless and formless. But yeah, it's a tricky question. I haven't achieved moksha, so I really can't answer that question. But Sita, Ben, go on. Yeah.
No, I think you basically covered it. So all of these questions completely drop away, and it's one of those things when you sort of have that experience. All of these questions that you have in the relative world, like why is there suffering? Why are we on this journey in the first place? All of those questions drop away and are no longer relevant. And you are not that little individual in this little body and this is my life. You are no longer that. You are so much more grander than that. You've achieved enlightenment. You've kind of hit the jackpot. So all of those things, all those limitations completely drop away, and all those questions just become totally irrelevant.
Absolutely. Just like the human body is not able to sometimes see certain frequencies of light, but other animals can, or hear certain sounds. There are things we cannot perceive or comprehend because our body is not equipped to do that. And so like that, there may be other dimensions that we are not aware of, cannot experience, and those are our limitations. So I suppose the proof of the pudding will be when we transcend. So the next question is from Navneet Krishnan, and the question is that why does it seem like God incarnates only in India?
Sita, you have got that question.
That's not necessarily true. I mean, we've got prophets in other parts of the world, like we had Christ, we had, all these other prophets throughout the ages. But the amazing thing is that actually there may well be so many more spiritually enlightened people than that we would ever know, but we just wouldn't know that they even existed. Like they just sort of like meditate and they sort of achieve enlightenment and they just quietly sort of pass into that state and we never even know who they are. Luckily within Hinduism, because we've got this very sort of pluralistic attitude, we like to think that there are multiple ways of making spiritual progress and that all of us are actually on that journey of gaining a spiritual experience. And that's not necessarily the case with other religious traditions. For them, it's just sort of more focusing on belief and following the sort of guidance of that particular religion. But within Hinduism, he says, no, you can actually get that spiritual experience yourself. So perhaps that's why it sort of opens the doorway for so many avatars, incarnations of God, and also for all of us to essentially become rishis ourselves and achieve enlightenment. Vijay Bhai?
I think I can add one story that Jay Bhai has said once or twice. He said, look, I think God did try once to incarnate in outside India, but the poor guy was crucified. Yes, so he said, no more, I give up. I only be born in India again. Yes, because in India, we revere God man. Yes. You see, that's the beauty about Hinduism. If you notice one thing that you don't see in other religions, that we always try to elevate somebody to something higher. Like, in Gujarati, say, Bhagwan Javo. So this guy is like a god, or this guy is like a king. This lady is like a goddess. It's not it's a statement of blasphemy. It's a sense of showing that we are divine beings. Doing that in Abrahamic faith is seen as blasphemy. You never compare yourself with God or a prophet. If you do that, they'll say, oh, that's a no, it's a bad thing. Hinduism is the opposite. Yeah, we actually believe that that's a good thing. Always compare yourself with somebody higher. So in effect, the fact that in India we say that it's the only country in the world where a human can elevate the status of a god. I think I'll leave it there for that question.
Amazing. I'm going to take last 3 questions, so we'll extend by a couple of minutes. Lokesh Yadav is asking, what will be the scientific explanation for spirituality? Because people today believe in science first and then spirituality.
Yes, Sita Ben. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's something that Dad has talked about in his talks, this sort of convergence of science and spirituality, because for centuries, spirituality is in one box with, fluffy stuff like religion and belief, and sort of science is sort of seen as very empirical. You need hard facts and experiments to prove certain things. But essentially, we are sort of getting to that point in science where when you sort of get to the nitty-gritty of what the smaller than the smallest or the bigger than the biggest, you sort of start hitting unknown territory. And this is where you get things like quantum mechanics, and all of the rules that apply in quantum mechanics are not the rules of empirical science at all. And it's boggling the scientists so much. And also the question of consciousness. What is consciousness? There's no physical part of the brain which produces consciousness. And what is it? And this is kind of like science is hitting a roadblock. And actually, there needs to be a transition now. They need to sort of make the leap into the realm of spirituality, because as Hindu philosophy sort of emphasizes that everything is essentially spiritual underpinning. It's not material, it's spiritual. And science is coming to that conclusion now through quantum mechanics, through biology, through this idea of consciousness, that actually, what is the explanation to consciousness? What is the explanation as to why particles behave differently when there is a conscious observer? What are all of these things? And spirituality gives those answers, and scientists are sort of resisting it so much. But I think there'll come a point where they won't be able to resist it anymore, and will realize that spirituality is the underpinning, and it's not something that's sort of different to science. It's actually the whole point is dharma. The whole point is trying to discover what the identity of the universe is, the identity of ourselves, and they'll hopefully converge and become one beautiful way of understanding the universe. Vijay bhai?
I think you've got it beautifully, Sita. So I was going to say things on the same lines, but I believe it was Werner Heisenberg who said that the essence of all creation is non-material. I think that's the thing about science today. They're so fixed on the empirical facts, which are physical and empirical facts. So they still have to make the transition, I believe. That once the transition is done, I think it'll open a whole realm of different science. But I don't think we are there at the moment. That's what I can add to that. Yeah.
Okay. Second last question for today, Prashant Rathod. Which school of thought should one follow, Dvait or Advait?
Whichever suits you best, I guess. Whatever you prefer, your faculty. Because ultimately, to be honest, they're both actually the same. If you look at very deeply, I'll give you an example. If you look at the Ramanuja, who talks about Vishishta Advait, although he calls it Vishishta Advait, it's actually Dvait. But even Ramanuja says that the state of moksha is that when you're so fixated on the divine, they think of nothing else but only of God. Well, if you think, and then the other question is in Dvait, when you ultimately are so focused inwards, that realize actually there's nothing else but you're divine. Ultimately, if you look at it very closely, there's not much difference. It's just a question of what suits you best, your temperament, your background, and whatever approach you take. But in a sense, I think if you look at the Upanishads, I guess God is seen as a principle ultimately. But both pathways, whatever suits you best. Yeah. See that?
Yeah, there's not much I can add really. It depends on your perspective, your temperament, what kind of spiritual approach is best suited to you. And ultimately, as long as you sort of follow on that particular pathway that is best for you, you will get to the same conclusion. Dvait and Advait essentially merge and become that one spiritual experience that we're all striving for.
The final question is one that we've heard before, but it's always nice to answer questions to people who are new to the channel. This is from Indo-Brit. And so we have this concept of, maybe in the Abrahamic side of things, that God is all and compassionate, loving, kind, caring. And then they look at the real world today and they see so much suffering and poverty and issues around the world. So this is a natural question for everybody to ask, that if God is so good, then why is there so much suffering in the world today? And why doesn't God help the poor? Because we see the poor suffering more, whilst we don't see the rich affected as much. Why is there such an imbalance?
Sita Ben, you have a go at that.
Yeah, I mean, my dad has talked about this many times on his videos. So the thing is, we as humanity want to sort of reach out to that ultimate being who we've kind of called God. And as human beings, we strive to have certain qualities within ourselves, such as compassion, love, power, all of these things. And we think, well, there's a God who we worship, so he surely should be all powerful, all compassionate, all loving. And we sort of project these human aspirations onto a God and multiply them to infinite level. And although it has helped many people on their spiritual journey, sort of thinking of God in this particular way, with it comes its limitations and the baggage. And it no longer is able to answer these philosophical challenges of why is there suffering, why is there misery, why are there poor people? If God is all compassionate, why does he only help some people and not everybody? It doesn't seem fair. So the problem with God with form and sort of projecting all these human aspirations on that God with form is that it comes with a tremendous amount of baggage. And as humanity evolves and starts thinking about these questions, this kind of form of God just doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem right. That's why this idea of principle-oriented spirituality is becoming so much more relevant today, because all of that baggage drops away. The whole purpose of life is to multiply yourself and become spiritual. And all of this baggage of why is there suffering, what kind of a God is this, they all suddenly drop away. Vijay bhai?
Yeah, I think that's kind of pretty much all the same lines I think along. But all I can add is that actually, I don't think any religion can ultimately answer why there is suffering. I know it's a reality that people suffer, it's true. But I think as we get more spiritually oriented society, which should be our goal, then I think we will think more of poor and help poor more. At the same time, if you're rich, you say, look, I don't have too much wealth. But we haven't got there yet. But yes, the truth is that no matter how much answers we give on why they're suffering, they're all going to be cop-outs ultimately. And especially if you believe in a God in the heaven that Sita mentioned, then there's of course limitations. So yes, ultimately there's no answer. That's all I can add. All you can say is that there's suffering and we should try and alleviate it and try to make the world a better place. Yeah.
Fantastic. So folks, we are going to wrap it up now. We are 10 minutes over our normal time. Thank you so very much, everybody, for your wonderful contributions, your warm feedback, all the comments you've left on the channels for us. It's very, very much appreciated. And what I'd say is that I will look forward to seeing you all next week on Saturday, 2 o'clock UK time. And before I end the call for today, I'd like to share a quote from Swami Vivekananda, in keeping in line with today's topic, which was trying to uncover your true identity. Here is the quote: "The greatest religion is to be true to your own nature. Have faith in yourselves." With that, I'd like to wish you all a great week ahead. And let me bring on my team. And we will see you next week, Saturday, 2 o'clock again. Bye-bye for now.